Oh, we forgot about cats!
Captain Marvel was a pretty good movie because it really set up like the hype for Endgame, and it built up, and I enjoyed it.
Captain Marvel was good. I felt like there were some scenes that needed improvements, mainly with the brightness and saturation. Other than that, it was a pretty good film.
I definitely agree that it was a decent film. It's definitely probably one of the top 10 Marvel movies, especially for the fact that it was one of the first superhero female lead superhero movies since Wonder Woman, and it definitely tackled some decent topics.
I think it's one of my personal favorite Marvel films as a Marvel fan, just because it was the first female Marvel movie, and I think it really took on different aspects of what it is to be a female superhero and have people kind of frowning upon that, and I think it started a good conversation that needed to be had. So with Shazam, I think that it was one of the better DC movies. I think in my personal opinion, DC is my favorite, and I think it told a really good story about the benefits of family and kind of bringing. I like it. Superhero movies are superhero movies, but I think they need to start conversations, which this one did as well.
I also agree that it's been one of the better DC movies, especially I think we can all agree on that statement. I definitely liked how it added the humor. The few DC movies have been known for its humor, and this one definitely had a nice humor aspect to it as well as a good family aspect to it.
Personally, I really love the direction of the film, whether it be just the story, whether it be the action. Personally, I just like David F. Sandberg's films and can't wait to see what he does next.
I really enjoyed that they didn't really put themselves with the past few Disney movies before that, and it really made a difference until the end where they sort of dropped a hint about all the other superheroes. Endgame was a pretty good movie. It was definitely a bit overhyped, especially since it was a 22 movie build up over 10 years. But I think the payoff was worth it for a lot of people, and it really made the experience pretty nice.
For me, I felt like Avengers Endgame was very overhyped and very lackluster. It felt like there could have been scenes that should have been cutted from the film, but it was a decent film to watch.
I personally think Endgame was actually probably just the right amount of hype surrounding it. I think just the buildup of having such a massive culmination of 10 years and 22 movies, as well as having this massive enemy finally show his appearance and give such an amazing performance, definitely adds to the lore and the legacy of Marvel that they're leaving behind.
So personally, I hated it for a lot of reasons. There were good reasons. I think it had a great villain of the fact that he didn't want to just destroy the world. Even though he kind of did at the end. Anyways, in Infinity War it wasn't that case. And I think the one huge fight scene was the most satisfying moment to ever watch in my life. But I think that they also, with the build-up of all these movies, they didn't really tie it all together, and there were multiple plot holes left, and there were many characters that I felt were personally completely ruined by Endgame. And it really missed some of the things I was really hoping for to be good, and certain characters they killed off I feel like didn't make sense because of what they said about it, and the writers and the directors kind of didn't know what was going on, and as soon as you introduce time travel into something, it kind of messes everything up. I think Spider-Man Far From Home was definitely one of the best movies visually, just because of that one scene that was completely CGI. I think it was really told well, and it was very comic book accurate to Mysterio. I really liked how they did that.
I agree with the visual aspect as well as the comic book accuracy, but I also like how they made Peter Parker's character grow dramatically throughout the film, from him being a little scared to finally growing the confidence and having the power to stand up and show that he's ready to be somebody new.
Except they just ruined that with the post-credit scene. But
I'd say I liked it. It's definitely a movie that I don't want to necessarily watch again anytime soon. but I felt like the story arc for Spider-Man was good at first, and then at the end, as you said, the end credit scene just ruined it, and it should have been cut.
Spider-Man was one of my personal favorites. I really enjoyed all the visuals. I enjoyed the story, and I really enjoyed the comedic aspects of the whole movie.
I happened to see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood by myself in the theater, so it was kind of fun to actually voice my opinions throughout the movie. And I thought it was a really well done film, giving people the insight look to what it was like during the 1960s, as well as throw a little twist on a certain real life event.
I really enjoyed it. I wouldn't say it's not Oscar type, but it was a really fun film to watch. It did tell a really good story.
Chapter 2 was another one of my favorite movies this year. I really liked how they continued the story off from the previous movie and how they just ended the story. To me, it was just perfect.
For me, I felt like there was so much story elements in the book that I felt like should not have been translated to the movie. I felt like with a almost 3-hour runtime, there were times that it really felt like it was dragging on. So I guess just runtime.
I didn't personally like this movie. I thought what he did with the book and with this movie, the entire aspect of it made a little to no sense to me about how it goes from one thing and then it shifts over to another, how the past combines with the present and all that stuff, and like the illusions and everything like that. I thought were nice, but the overall ending up to that with like the cult and everything, I just thought was just really weird.
Personally, I hate horror movies, but I absolutely loved it because I thought it told a really good story. I haven't read the book, so I can't really say any movie to book like translation, but I thought what they did with it was good, and I thought like the cinematography was beautiful, and I liked how they switched between it and kind of told more personal stories.
Joker was just great in general because it really it had a good message to the movie, and it had a really good story.
I thought it was interesting the way that they made Joker's laugh a part of Joker that really was painful to watch, because you really felt bad for the guy and you wanted to sympathize him even more.
I like how Todd Phillips did what he did with this movie was turn it from being a anti-superhero movie or just superhero movie in general to a character study, and how it tackles some of the things that actually affect people probably most of everyday life. And to see him go from an outcast to possibly becoming a underground criminal god, I can say, is a really strong case for it being a Oscar-worthy film.
I think going off of that, like what I've said with the previous superhero movies, is that it's a conversation starter. And I think this one was the one that had the most conversation surrounding it, with the safety of movie theaters for one, because we like live in Colorado, so everybody knows about the theater shooting that happened, to then also having that conversation about mental health and what bullying and this harsh reality can do to a person. And I think it was phenomenal. Like, that's really all I can say about it, is I think it was amazing.
I really enjoyed it. I felt like even though Rian Johnson has taken a lot of flack for directing The Last Jedi, I felt like even with his movies, it's really enjoyable to watch.
In my opinion, he redeemed himself after The Last Jedi with this movie. For him to tackle such a different type, from going from Star Wars to this, to a what is it called? A comedical thriller. I think he did a phenomenal job, and the cast themselves all had their standout moments with it.
I think it was definitely, again, I hate murder mysteries, and I think this was the best done murder mystery I've ever seen, because it was more than one twist in it, so it made it really interesting as the viewer to watch and understand, and all the acting in it was phenomenal too.
Even though I haven't watched it yet, I do plan on watching it, and I've heard very mixed opinions about the movie.
Personally, I felt like the Rise of Skywalker should not have been made. I felt like J.J. Abrams was not confident in the material he was given and wanted to do his own thing. And I also believe that even if they did have a roadmap, it still would not have ended up spectacular.
I'm kind of on the side with him, but I also have my own opinion. I think it was good. I think it was a nice ending. There are a few flaws with it, especially with how The Last Jedi went down. I do have a few questions. A few plot holes have been opened up, but I think for it being a conclusion to a saga, I thought it did a decent job. I didn't think it was the greatest job, but I think it did a decent job. I still think one of the major flaws with this movie was its runtime was really short, and it could have been at least 2 hours and 45 minutes long.
I didn't like it either. This year I've been so disappointed by the conclusions of movies, and this wasn't any exception. I think it was really good until the last 10 minutes. There were definitely plot holes, and things weren't explained enough, with certain characters returning with no explanation besides Poe saying, "Somehow Palpatine turned." That's it. And I know you guys hated on The Last Jedi, but I did like the message.
I really loved The Last Jedi.
I liked the message in it of that anybody can have the Force, and they don't have to have some special name. And then they turned it on the 180 with Rey, and all of a sudden had to have her as a certain person.
I really loved the fact that it's like you don't have to be a Skywalker or anyone. You can be whoever you want to be and whatever you choose to be.
Yeah, I think they should have kept that. And with the final scene at the end where they kind of didn't do that, I think it would have been cool if they kept the theme of, no, I'm just Rey. I think that would have been such a cool ending. So these were our personal opinions on the movies from 2019. But of course, you guys have your own personal opinions, and we would love to hear them both in the poll or in the comments, and just let us know what you think is the best movie of 2019. How do you want me to sign it out?
Just say goodbye to Mike.
Okay, goodbye!
Bye.